Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Rogue Deck Chronicles. After a nice long break here, we're finally back once again. Um, we have a lot to talk about, a lot to catch up on. We have a lot of thoughts to share. But again, I'm not here by myself. I have Devin with me. Devin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. Like you said, it's been a little bit, but it's given us an opportunity to play test the cards. I know you and I have put our hands on a lot of different archetypes, kind of on top of our own playing. I know you and I have been watching other people's reactions, and I think after 2 weeks, we have an idea of what this Mega Evolution set really can bring to the TCG. So I'm excited to talk about that today.
Exactly. Again, we're going to talk about our thoughts on the new Mega Evolution set. It will be legal for tournament play this weekend, and we have two tournaments coming up that will showcase these cards, hopefully. But we'll talk more about that later on. And then we'll go into our Rogue Deck of the Week. So a little shorter agenda compared to normal, but I'm sure we have a lot to say that will just fill up our time here. And just, yeah, I guess let's jump right in. Mega Evolutions have been out for almost 2 weeks at this point. And we've seen some cards do really well. We've seen some cards not do well. So, Devin, what are your initial first impressions of this set? I know we probably built like 7, 8 decks already in our live account with this. So, what are your thoughts?
My first thought is really talking about probably the most popular engine we've seen from all the deck lists, which is Soul Rock Lunatone. I I was wrong. That I thought the engine would have been too clunky and not worth the deck space. And we're seeing it get plugged into so many different archetypes and making it work. Where it's one of those things like if you go back to our Mega Set video, I was like, no, this is not going to work. It doesn't make sense. Only certain. No, I was wrong. It's a plug and play. As long as your deck runs 1 to 2 fighting energy, you're good to go. And it's probably the standout piece of Mega Evolutions, including the Megas, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, like honestly, that engine, those two cards alone are redefining a lot of the decks right now. And a good example would be Golden Go.
Mm-hmm.
Like that has changed that deck completely. Like you don't even play Energy Search Pro anymore. You move to the Precious Trolley build. I was watching a couple streamers and a couple YouTube videos with this card or this deck, sorry, getting ready for Milwaukee and the one in Latin America, and it changes how you play that deck 100%. You actually have a decent single prize attacker. You can go toe to toe with like Alakazam, Ethan's Typhlosion now instead of it being like losing on the prize trade. But yeah, that engine completely changed this meta. And that's not the only deck. Their Celeridge has gone way better with that deck as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, Solok, Lunatone, great engine, and I just looked at how much those cards are. They're still only like 25 cents each. So
Yeah, I
they're
mean,
still pretty cheap to get.
yeah, they're uncommon cards. They're not going to go up. If you open probably a ETB, you're probably going to get one of each minimum, right? They're not going to be hard to get a hold of, which is smart by Pokemon to create an engine that is cheap. That is, I don't even want to say splashable. You still need the fighting energy for it to work. So only certain archetypes will really be able to take advantage of it, but it's not going to be one of those archetypes. It's not going to be a Pheasant Dippy, right? Where you need to have one or two of in your collection and they're 15, $20 a piece. If they ever eclipse more than $1.50, I'd be shocked.
Yeah. And then one of them was a promo with the pre-release kit. So if you want, that's your way of blinging out
Mm-hmm.
your play set of them, is just get the pre-release promos. But yeah, I think that came. I wouldn't say it came out of nowhere. A lot of people were hype on it, but I don't think we were expecting how good that those two cards alone were.
Yeah, no, I was completely wrong on my evaluation of the cards. And now seeing it for 2 weeks, I'm like, wow, this is bonkers. And I've been on the ladder. I've been seeing it in so many different archetypes. I run against a Alakazam build that used it. I went against obviously the Mega Lucario deck carries it. Everyone got that for free on the ladder, right? And then obviously we've seen Golden go, and I'm like, the cards are everywhere, and they're single energy attackers. They, like you said, they can go around certain pieces, so they help kind of round out some deck archetypes. And I was definitely wrong on those cards.
Yeah, like I even see Great Tusk Mill playing it now instead of using the Dunsparce engine. You play that. It's an easy way to get your energy into the discard, so you can use Sada's Vitality. Yeah, this is something that is definitely very worth the hype. And yeah, going forward, I don't know how we're going to beat a more consistent engine than this, even going to the Phantasmal Flame set next month. And yes, I did say next month. We're getting that set already so quick.
And then on the flip side, I would say the one card that has probably disappointed the most probably has to do with the fact it was hyped up so much and it just hasn't lived up to the hype is the Venusaur build. I think Mega Venusaur EX just isn't what everyone was hoping it to be.
I would actually argue the most disappointing card in this set is Lucario. Like, I'll still see Mega Venusaur get top cut in the online tournaments. I haven't really seen Lucario do much, if anything.
I mean, I've seen it in Japanese tournaments. Like, Mega Lucario is still making a presence in the Japanese meta. And I think the reason why we haven't seen it online, I think it might be a stigma thing. It's too linear of a deck for some players. I think a new player picking it up will enjoy the fact that it's introducing you to the Mega mechanic. It has, like we talked about, the best draw engine in the game right now. It has a really good Gust card. Like, it's too good of a deck to be a theme deck, effectively. And I think some players are maybe some ego with it, where they think they're just too good to play with a glorified theme deck. But with Venusaur, it was so much hype that it just hasn't lived up to it. Not saying it's a bad deck. It just, I don't think it's reached that energy that people were giving it, because everyone was talking about it's the next great tank deck. It's the next great thing. Force of Vitality is going to make it busted, and it just hasn't made the splash that I would think a deck with that much hype should make. That's why I would say it's disappointing. I'm not saying it's a bad deck. I'm saying it's the most disappointing deck. Very similar to why you would say the same thing for Mega Lucario.
Yeah, and I can kind of see that with Venusaur. Everyone's like, oh, this is going to be super tanky, 380 HP. It comes with you can play with Shuckle. You have a bunch of ways to heal. And really, the only way we're seeing it do even well at all is more of, I wouldn't say an aggro deck, but like it's very aggressive, wanting to do a lot of damage, utilizing the Meganium and the Teal Master Gogurpon, and trying to get a bunch of energy on board and hit for the big numbers, and only playing like maybe one Venusaur for the whole entire game to offset the prize trade. You're not tanking, you're not like just absorbing damage and just like hoping you can outlast. You're actually more on the offensive versus the defensive style, which is definitely different than what we were thinking.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see how the Venusaur archetype is going to evolve. Speaking of which, I think Meganium is as good as everyone says it is. That combined with Force of Vitality, that engine is just so much fun to play with. It makes grass fun again.
Oh yeah, and I think Force of Vitality is one of the best stadiums we've seen in a while. I think super balanced, and in the sense that you can't play turn one, or you can play, but you can't use the ability turn one. So it doesn't make a deck super OP from the very beginning. You have to at least let your opponent have the opportunity to set up their board before you can get your stage 2s out. It's only limited to you have to have the cards in hand, and it's only to the grass. So I think it's a very balanced card, and it's bringing a type, aka grass type, back into not necessarily the forefront, but it's a typing that people are talking about again, because it used to be not good at all. I don't even remember the last good grass deck out there. Maybe it was like Rowleg back in the tag team era days. If there's something if there was a grass deck out there other than Toll Scroll, I can't think of one.
And I think the reason why Grass wasn't seeing as much play prior was that Gungo was such a good deck and it resists Grass. So Grass had to overcome a resistance to a top tier deck. And with the cards that were introduced in Mega Evolution, they have those tools. It's like Hydrapple EX. That resistance doesn't really bother Hydrapple much because the energy doubling automatically overcomes it with one energy attachment. Mega Venusaur
Yeah.
doesn't really care for the resistance because you're two-shotting anyway, kind of deal. Like, so I think Force Vitality and Meganium make Grass better because it just helps naturally overcome some of the drawbacks that Grass had from a matchup perspective in the format. But
Yeah.
I think Force Vitality is very dangerous still. I think the reason why we haven't really heard much uproar over the card is because there's not a card that really breaks it yet. When we had Forest of Giant Plants, we had very, very toxic Vileplume cards in the format. So that engagement of turn 1 or even sometimes turn 2 Vileplume, right? Weren't able to do anything with that because Vileplume just turned the game off. Yes, there is a Vileplume in the standard meta right now. It's not as dangerous as old school Pollen Vileplume. Like, all it does is you search your deck for energy. So if a grass card gets printed that makes Force of Vitality shut down your opponent, I think we're going to have a very different conversation. But until that combination happens, I think you're right. It is balanced enough to where both sides can still play the game because there hasn't been that broken engagement yet that the old formats used to have when we did have this evolution cheating rule or a card in play.
Yeah, the closest we have to the Vileplume issue is Jellicent EX. And even then, like, it has to be in the active. It's a stage 1. There's ways around it to where yes, it's annoying, but if you have Boss in hand, you can play around the deck so easily. So, but I will say, I think the MVP of the Mega Evolution set is definitely the new Alakazam deck. I was not expecting it to see this much play.
I don't know if I would say the Alakazam archetype is the MVP of this set. I think, to me, the MVP of this set actually would go toward the Lillie determination. I think a brand new draw supporter for the meta. Right now, we're only seeing lower counts, like no more than 2 to 3 in the deck. But that's just because we haven't had to get the draw rotated yet. I think Lillie's value is going to grow even more with time. But Alakazam had the hype and is meeting it, if not exceeding it. I completely agree with you. There's so many different ways to build it, and there's so many different ways that players are just kind of breaking the game with it as well.
Yeah, like I remember going on social media, and with the regionals coming up, people are like, "Okay, be ready. I want to play that Mist Energy in my deck," and it's like that's practically the only counter to it, other than playing a lot of Iono or Judge. But even then, like, the amount of draw that you have with that deck, like, I've played it. I play it with the Tinkaton. Just obviously, it's me. I like being a little different. But the gathering materials with Pheasantipity, with the Dunsparce, and with Alakazam, I went from having a 1-card hand back to a 20-something card hand in like 3 actions.
Yeah, I was playing against an Alakazam list on the ladder, and they actually splashed in a Alakazam EX into the list as well. So as they were setting up their hand, they were attacking from the bench. And they're like, here's 120.
Nice.
Here's 120. And then when they are ready for the single prizer, they just put the single prize in and just finished. And I was like, that's genius. Because it wasn't rare candy. It was still slowly drawing because you want the Kadabra, you want the Alakazam, you have the Dunsparce. This one also had a Pheasantipity in place. So there was a lot of just natural draw that was happening. I was like, dang. And when Alakazam came up, they were like, all right, I have 26 cards in hand. Let me just do 400 damage to your active.
Yeah.
No big deal. Like, you can take care of anything at that point. And I was like, well, I can't disrupt you. I don't have enough Ionos to shut you down. And I think you're right. I think if Alakazam, and I think this weekend, we'll talk about this weekend a little bit more, but I think Alakazam has an opportunity to make a very big impact, which will then result in more disruption in the format. So we're talking about more judges, more Ionos, and I think that what that means less Lillie. But Lillie doesn't have to be important right now because Lillie just basically says when we lose Iono in 5 months' time, at least we have a shuffle draw supporter. That's really all Lillie is guaranteeing us right now, which is fine.
Yeah. And I've been seeing like Lillie is obviously a very good card. Alakazam is like the card that came out of nowhere that everyone's playing, and now everyone's trying to really plan against because 260 damage counters. Like the only way around that is have a card on your bench that prevents damage counters, but it doesn't really do anything to the bench or to the active spot. So yeah, you're forcing your opponent to play Mist Energy, but there really isn't an easy way to get Mist Energy without messing up consistency. So in a sense, like Alakazam is a meta-defining card too because it's making people think how to build their decks differently just to counter a strong single prizer. It's not even a mega card. You're not getting 3 prizes or 2 prizes. You only gain 1. And yeah, it's all around powerful. I love it. The times I've played the deck, it's been so much fun.
Yeah, and I think with the prevalence of psychic builds and just psychic decks in general, you can just throw in an Alakazam line for draw. And then just be like, oh, late game, I have a whole bunch of cards in hand. I can just put a single energy onto this Alakazam, and then that can be your single prize kind of manipulator, right? Another card that I've been seeing, speaking of single prize psychic Pokemon, and it's not a card for Mega Evolution, but it's a card that I've seen a lot of people just knee-jerk react to, is the Mimikyu. I've been seeing a lot more Mimikyu in the ladder lately, and it's because obviously everyone wants to play the Mega EXs, but I'm sitting there, I'm looking at the Mimikyu, I'm like, is this really the silver bullet you think it is? Because I don't think it is. I don't think it's going to solve the problem of your decks match up against EX decks that people want it to be.
No, I think there's too many gusting out for Mimikyu to really be beneficial because that's always been people's knee-jerk reactions. Like, okay, now we have all these EXs out. I want to splash a Mimikyu just to stall, and then it's easy one energy retreat, or I can play Air Balloon or Rescue Board, and I can make that my pivot. And it's like, well, okay, yeah, you're stalling because they can't attack you. You're making them gust around you. But unless you're playing a way to get, like, with Psychic Energy or a way to power that thing up, you're only doing 70 damage counters to an 380 HP Pokemon. Is that really doing anything? Or are you just, like, delaying the inevitable, delaying what's going to come out? And you can just use that for better consistency or something that goes with your strategy more effectively.
Yeah, because like when I played against it, I was playing the Camerupt list, and I'm like, okay, cool. You have 80 HP. I'll just burn you. I just burned a person. I'm like, all right, I'll just burn it. Cool. I KO it during checkup. It doesn't trigger a Pheasantipity. I get a prize. I get rid of your wall, and you don't get a Pheasantipity proc. Didn't slow you down any because the Camerupt deck, luckily enough, can get all that set up turn 2, and you're not setting your board up. You're just thinking you're slowing me down. Now, not every deck can do a status condition like that, but most decks right now have a single prize pivot to get around something like that. And to think
especially with the Solrock and Lunatone engine being so prevalent.
Yeah, so the fact that everyone thought this was going to be so now compare it to like the first week on the ladder versus maybe today, which we're talking about a good 2-week difference in timing. I don't see the Mimikyu as much as I did maybe this time last week. So I think people are like, oh, Mimikyu's so strong, and then they realize decks are not just going to run just EXs. Like, we're not in that format. Players are building decks much more responsibly than that. So it was interesting because I saw so much Mimikyu the first week. I was like, wow, this is interesting. And then the second week rolls by, I'm like, wow, where did all this Mimikyu go? but it was thought to be a silver bullet. And I'm like, all right, we need to talk about deck building and think about our deck building, because if this is what you think it is and what you think it's doing, we have to reconsider what we're thinking the meta is like.
And I think that's just like a reaction to weekly metas too, because obviously when the cards first come out, everyone's playing the EX cards. So if you're trying to grind and get to Arceus tier, playing the Mimikyu is a smart idea because everyone's trying to play the new shiny toys. They're not really thinking about countering. They're not like getting ready for tournaments or anything like that because we had 2 weeks. If someone that's already know what they're playing, they're just trying to have fun and try out some new cards. I get the Mimikyu for that. And then go into the second week, now more people are getting ready for the tournaments as they're coming back up. We kind of touched the new stuff already. So let's go back to what a true meta will be. And then we're seeing more single prize attackers. So it's interesting that even on the online client, there's weekly metas, monthly metas, and just like it's just so reactionary based on what just comes out at that given time.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, like you said, everything evolves. This is a dynamic environment that we are testing and we are playing in. So you kind of have to make your observations and react to it. But sometimes when you're kind of just reacting to that, you have to also keep in mind you're reacting to such a small pool of data and such a small universe that maybe you're like, you know what? I'm seeing a lot of Mimikyu this week. I'm not going to make any knee-jerk changes to my deck because I probably won't see it next week. Like, you kind of still have to be, like we said, responsible of your deck building. That way you're not just constantly tinkering based on what you're seeing on 1 or 2 days worth of play.
Yeah, and I think we're fortunate enough to have a client where you can be as dynamic, as reactionary, as fluid as the live client. It's not like going to a league and like, okay, 1 week you're seeing XYZ decks, and next week you're seeing different decks where you may not have the resources to get the cards or even have the cards. If we don't have the cards in the live account, I just craft them.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was fortunate enough, I transferred a lot from my online account, and I never really had issues getting the cards I needed. Do we also play a lot because we have this podcast and we do the videos? Yes, like we're fortunate because we love this game. But like if you're comparing to like the cardboard game, I don't think it's going to be as dynamic as what we're doing right now on the live client.
Mm-hmm. No, that's just, again, where we are as a community, right? We have in-person environments, we have online environments, and we can hybrid it to where a player who really wants to prepare can use both environments to their advantage and be able to optimize the best they can, for sure.
So with all that being said, I think we can start going into some of the online tournaments. Actually, we're fortunate enough to see Yokohama is finally loaded after a couple weeks. And I will say the Yokohama Champions League is more or less the mega set format that we're going to be in, but the only difference being that they have the Diancie and Gengar, I guess, theme decks. I don't know what they're called, but those deck boxes, they were given access to them before this tournament. But other than that, they have the same card pool that we have. So let's go on. Do you want to start looking at online tournaments, or do you want to go straight to the Champions League?
Yes, let's look at Yokohama, because I think what we're going to see, or we see with the Yokohama results, kind of reinforce some of the conversation we just had, where we're not seeing big rippling effects and domination of these new cards that had so much hype to it. We're seeing kind of small little pieces here and there that are kind of making micro impacts to certain things. And you and I were talking about Yokohama before, and we were like, all right, let's look into this. And Gardevoir has second place. Great. Gardevoir only had a couple small changes to the list. We're talking, it's running Lillie's Determination. It's running a Mystery Garden. And it's running the new Mega Dancing, which we won't get for another week or so. But really, it got a little more consistent. and then it added a new attacker to the list, which is the Mega Diancie. For those who have not seen the Mega Diancie, it's a basic Mega EX Pokemon, so 3 prizes, that has 270 HP, Psychic type, has the ability Diamond Coat. This Pokemon takes 30 less damage. Cool. So it's effectively 300 HP for three prizes. It has the attack for 2 Psychic Energy. It does 120 times, and you discard up to 2 energy cards from this Pokemon. This attack does 120 for each card damage this way. So you can do 240, discard 2, which is fine because Gardevoir loves energy in the discard pile. So it's a really good synergistic piece to the deck, and it can just basically wall a hit that Gardevoir usually could anyway, but it just gives them something else. And if that is the card or the set of cards that are making the most impact in a tournament, we need to reevaluate what the Mega Evolution set's all about and why all this hype kind of came up and then we're not seeing it.
Exactly, yeah. Like even the Gardevoir, the only other new cards it got is that the Ralts and Kirlia are better. That's it. The skeleton, the strategy, everything else is the same. And you can even argue like, okay, yeah, we see Mega Diancie versus Mega Gardevoir, but like, does it really need Mega Diancie? No, it was a more tanky option. It can hit hard really easily. Versus Mega Gardevoir is a stage 2. So in one sense, the Diancie is a better trade-off. But going into Milwaukee and the other regional this weekend, it's not also needed as well. And we had that conversation before. It's like, does Gardevoir need anything from this set? And the answer is clearly no. It doesn't even care that this set came out. It's like, okay, cool. I'll see you at the upper tables, and that's how it's going to be right now.
Yeah, and then looking at the results, like the only other impact cards that I really see from Yokohama that is new is going to go with the Soul Rock and Lunatone engine. Like we're talking about really these archetypes. We're not seeing brand new archetypes. We're not seeing anything drastic. We're just seeing additions and optimizations to existing archetypes. And I think that begs the question, are these Mega Evolution cards worth it? Do they justify the 3 prize trade to focus an archetype or even put them into a deck as a line or a one-off or anything like that? Because from what I'm seeing, and I'm sure a lot of other people are probably looking at the same thing, the answer is not today.
Mm-hmm. I think we're seeing more of the single prize cards being very effective because single prize or single prize, it doesn't matter when you use it. That's why the Soul Rock engine is really good. That's why Alakazam is really good. That's why we're seeing supporters. But yeah, as you mentioned, we're not seeing the Pokemon really shine. Like if you're looking at Yokohama, we're not seeing Lucario there. We're not seeing Camerupt. We're not seeing Mega Gardevoir. We're not seeing any new Megas other than Diancie, which we don't have. So is it justified to play it this weekend if you're going to any tournament, local level or major level? Maybe, maybe not. It depends on how comfortable you are. But it's going to be a 3 prize liability versus a lot of these decks can one-shot that so easily. Look at Golden Gold. It got a brand new partner, a more consistent partner, and it doesn't care about getting knocked out if you're winning on the prize trade. They can take out 2 Megas, you take out 3 of their Pokemon, and if they're smart, they're going to play the Solwalk Lunatone and put a single prizer there. It's just the one-shot decks are still pretty prevalent enough to where the 3 prize decks, they can't hang. They can't stand a chance. They're not being able to be on the table long enough for them to make any impacts.
Yeah, no, they're just not. Like, so I'm on Limitless. I'm looking at the online impressions, right? And looking at just general archetypes, right? The highest ranking new archetype is that Alakazam deck, where it's about 3.5% of the meta share. And then the next one after that is Mega Venusaur at just over 3%. Mega Lucario is at 2.5%. So we're not seeing big, impactful, wide sweeping influences on decks like we thought we were. And that's a little interesting. And I'm not sure if it's a product of some of them are just bad, like Mega Abomasnow. Some of them are just waiting for a better partner, like Mega Camerupt. Some of them are just not needed, like Gardevoir. Like, I don't understand. Like, we just got 6 brand new Megas, and none of them are making really an impact at all.
I will say we see a little bit of like Kangaskhan being played, but again, it's not a main Pokemon in the list. We see it more as a support. So because that run Aaron ability, you can draw 2 cards. That is massive. And then you have cards like Acerola, the new Acerola card where you can defend it if you need to. But yeah, we're not seeing any new archetypes center around these megas. If anything, if they are being played, they're just support Pokemon like Mawile and Archaludon, Kangaskhan and Terrabox. Honestly, that's pretty much all we're seeing. Sometimes you see a one of Lucario, but not really. And if you look at the list playing online, 2 of the 3 top decks right now got better with Mega. We have the Godango and the Sailor Edge, which are using the Solak Lunatone engine. And then after that, you kind of see like the same old stuff. And Zoroark is still up there. Terrabox, you see Raging Bolt still hanging on. Charizard Pidgeot still hanging on. 2 versions of Gardevoir. So
Yeah.
if one's not enough, you have the other one. So, and even Grimmsnarl, that's still around. And when we all thought that was dead.
Yeah, and it's like you're saying, the improvements are coming from support pieces like draw engine, supporters, items, stadiums. They're not coming from attackers. And I think with that being said, looking toward Milwaukee, looking toward the regional in Brazil, I don't think you have to open Mega Evolution products to do well at these tournaments. I don't think that it's not like old sets where you can just bust open Mega Evolution and you'll have an archetype that's going to be defining for years to come. Like, it's one of those, like, I think Mega Evolution is a binder stuffer deck. You get your pieces for your binder, and then you'll react to the meta in 3 to 4 months' time.
Yeah, like as long as you get like your Fighting Gongs, your Solak Lunatones, maybe you get your supporters like your Lillie's Determination, all that. I think you'll be fine. You're not opening it for the Pokemon for competitiveness for some of the major level right now. Obviously, we love this set. This set has brought me back to liking the game again. I've been on this little like, oh, I don't know what to play right now. I've actually been just staffing and judging just because like I haven't been loving a deck enough to play in a tournament. So I'm like, I'd rather just like judge and let the other players do their thing, and I'll just be in the background. Now I have like a whole list of stuff I want to build. I love playing my single prize decks, and I think single prizers just in general have an innate boost with this set alone. Just having the opportunity of taking out a 3 prizer and winning on that prize trade. I know we've talked about Alakazam, but really Typhlosion did really well in Yokohama. I didn't even know that two of the decks in the top 32 were Typhlosions, with one being the top 16.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the next piece to fall will be outside of Alakazam, right? We've already talked about Alakazam being like the next great single prize deck. I'm curious on what that next deck's going to be. That's really going to be a low to the ground single prize deck that's going to just do enough to shape the meta to get players to, again, build responsibly. I just I don't see Dragapult, I don't see Gardevoir, I don't see Gungo going anywhere. But if you can find something that does well against two of those three, I think you can do just be dangerous at a cup or a regional.
Exactly, yeah. One interesting thing is that I'm not really seeing a lot of Psyduck. I know that was
Yes.
something a lot of people were talking about. Um, to be fair, last time I checked, it was a $12 card
I mean,
for a
you find the blister
yeah,
and you pretty much pay for the card. So, um,
yeah,
I think we're going to see a lot more Psyduck at regionals. I think Psyduck is going to be more prevalent in some deck lists we see this weekend than we do online. I think there's just not enough respect for Dragapult on the ladder, versus when you go to a regional, you have to respect Dragapult.
yeah.
And obviously, when we say Dragapult, we're talking the Dust War, really, because no other builds, no other decks really running the Dust War line. So that's where the Psyduck comes into play, where that can really just change how Dragapult even entertains itself now. Does it go to the Combuskin list that we saw, or does it just stay a Dust Noir and just hope the opponent just doesn't put Psyduck down or have it?
Yeah, so we'll see if people get their hands on it. This is something that I know me and some of my um, local league talked about. Like scalpers took hold of it, and but at the same time, like it was only available in blisters. We should have saw that coming, to be honest. But it's still a good card nonetheless. I think you're right. We'll see it more in the major level, regional, international, just because Dustmar. You'll see it with the Dragapult for sure, but some Charizard lists are playing it, and Charizard's coming out of the woodworks again. So just having that card in there, you're already going to be protecting yourself against Dragapult. Charizard will just be a side effect of it too, so you're good on that front as well. But other than that, I can't really think of any other like support mon or support Pokemon or cards that came out from the set that's really going to be super impactful. And again, we're looking at Yokohama. We're looking at the online tournaments right now because we have about 2 weeks of stuff going, and it's usually the same old with some adjustments.
Yeah, and that's where I'm going to be very intrigued on what we're going to see this weekend. I'm going to be very like Sunday or even Saturday afternoon when we see the top 6 decks. We kind of see who's been making waves in the day 2 of the tournaments. I'll be intrigued on how many Mega Lucario we see, how many Alakazam decks we see, how many, honestly, Cirilla GX. I would love to see the impact that deck makes into the meta. There's some questions I'm interested in. I want to see what happens because I don't know how to predict or even say, you know what, this feels like a good meta call. Because if I was a player, I'd probably build Golden Go Luna Rock, to be honest. I think it's just consistent. I think it's just fun to play with, and it's probably the easiest to get a hold of, to be quite honest.
And honestly, the Soul Rock engine helped solidify some of those bad matchups. Usually, we're doing pretty bad with single prizers or against Gardevoir. Now you have your own single prize that can knock out the Drifloons, the Screamtails. So it does, yeah. I would say that is probably the deck to watch out for, and really probably the most, I guess, low to the ground because the deck has been around for a while. Most people have the pieces for it. You just have to get the new pieces and learn the new way of playing it, which is not much different, other than not. You, you just have to play with the Precious Trolley build, and you have more single prize option now. So it's actually in a much better state than what has been. Not sure it will be enough to knock Guardy off the pedestal, but I think it's going to be a good option for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's just Other than that, I really am not sure. Like, I would not be surprised if Gardevoir just takes over still. Like, it's like you said, this is Gardevoir's the king of the hill, and someone's going to have to knock Gardevoir off the top of the hill for anyone to really say something is back or something is here. So that is what I would say are my forecasting of Milwaukee. The pieces I'm looking out for, like we said, Surledge, Alakazam. Like, I'd love to see the impact they make on a bigger scale tournament like that, to see if there's going to be ripple effects for the weeks to come.
I'm just interested to see what road decks make day two. Not necessarily like getting to the top 16, top 8 cut, but like with the way the new structure is, we're seeing the day twos being pretty big. I think like 400 player day twos compared to it just being a couple hundred. So it gives more opportunity for unique builds or unique text decks, whatever it may be. I just want to see what makes it in, because that even making day two of a major tournament like that is an accomplishment in itself. Like, you have to go 5-2-1 or better. So I'm really excited to see what comes out of it, what we can maybe get some ideas from, because right now we're seeing the same old, same old. So if the majors are when people try to innovate, so let's see what they do.
Exactly. And speaking of, and I want to transition, I think, to kind of go to the Mega Evolution impact potentially, right, is the Rogue Deck of the Week. So the deck I was kind of playing around with was Mega Camerupt, because when I saw kind of the pieces during the set review, I was like, oh, there's 2 attacks, 2 very different energy costs. One is single energy, and it plays with a status condition. I was like, all right, let's see what we can do with it. And the more I was kind of playing and testing, the more you threw in a couple ideas my way. Because when I saw the card, I'm like, oh, Volcarona. Instant connection, right? And then you talked about the Magmortar, the increasing of the burn counters, very similar to what Poison used to do with the manipulation of the poison counters. So I'm like, all right, what can we do with this 340 HP stage 1 Pokemon that just needs 1 energy to do over 240 damage? What can we do with it? And the one thing that going through the deck and the matches that I kind of was going back for, which is why I asked earlier, are Megas worth it? Are the 3 prizes worth it? And I think you and I both come to the conclusion right now it's just not quite there yet. And the matches for this week definitely reinforced that decision with me, because it's a lot of fun. I can do 300 a turn with all the pieces if everything lines up the way it needs to line up. But sometimes 300 for a turn for a single energy isn't quite enough, believe it or not.
Yeah. Especially if you're going against other megas, which the first couple weeks you'll see a lot, because again, people are playing with the new shiny toys. I know I've touched this deck as well. And obviously, I love my status conditions. I'm very good at manipulating that. But yeah, it's just being your only attacker, being the 3 prizer. My opponent saw my flaws very early on in my matches. I know we were talking about how like your opponent's like, I don't care about your flaws. I'm just going to take out your Camerupts.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, when it hits hard. It's fun. You can avoid the Pheasantity, which is always good in this format. But again, 3 prizer. I know you and me were talking, the Phantasmal Forces set brings a new partner for this deck.
Yeah.
And I think that will make this deck dramatically better. I would say maybe you can take out like 1 or 2 of the basic fire energies and put in some ignition energy to hit with the second attack in worst case scenario. But again, I think the really leaning into the status condition of the burn is really key for this deck.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that I was disappointed with the deck. The deck did exactly what I wanted to do. It's a straightforward, set up your board, you're setting up 3 different stage 1 lines. You're discarding 1 energy for the Volcarona proc, It's easy to set up. It's easy, and I would say this is a really good deck for someone to get introduced to Megas. It shows the mapping of prizes, like, and that's where we talked about where really this deck is missing a single prize attacker to really make the game last just a couple turns longer. But it was fun. Don't get me wrong. I didn't run into any Golden Go. I didn't run into any grass, which kind of sucked, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
Because if I did, I think I would have I would have a very different experience playing the deck. And by no means do I say I want to I don't want to disassemble it. It's still in our account. I don't think I'm going to take it apart. I think it's a deck that I'm going to keep off to the side and wait until November to see what we can do to upgrade it even further. So it was really it was fun. It was disappointing when my opponent can just knock out 2 attackers and call game, but it's really the quintessential, and I think it summarizes the Mega experience by saying that it can do a lot of damage. It can get you into situations where you can win, but it's just not quite there yet because there's not enough support for the cards yet.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So, but if you want to see it, I'll still post a video. I had some really good matches with it, so I'll have that later on in the week. And then the deck list will be in the show notes and description of the video today. And like I tell people for all the videos, take this and just see what you want to do with it. I've seen other players use a Volcanion engine with Latias. So they promote the Volcanion, they burn the Volcanion, they retreat it, and then you attack with the Mega Camerupt. I seen that. To me, it seemed like there was too many moving parts. I'm a very simplistic player. I'm not afraid to admit that. So a much more straightforward, more linear strategy to me, where I'm like, all right, I just need to get these pieces down, and then I can just do it. That's more of my playstyle right now. I just don't want to learn the nuanced lines just yet. I want to kind of play around with everything. So I've definitely seen different ways that this deck can be played. And the one we did a video was the Volcarona Magmortar build, because I just thought that was a little more streamlined, a little easier to pull off turn over turn.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, yeah. Again, take any of our lists, change them up however you've seen fit. We're not going to take any offense to them. That's the part of the game. Like, we see these decks, we introduce them, and it's up to you to change them how it fits your play style. We just want to see people play the game. That's all we want to do.
Yep, absolutely.
So with all that being said, Devin, we're 2 weeks in the Mega Evolution format. What are your final thoughts as we go into our first regional of the season with this new block?
I think that Mega Evolution had a lot of hype, and it did not live up to it. In the areas that did get the attention, well deserved, but you're not seeing a new archetype just make an instant splash. You're seeing micro archetypes or add-ons to archetypes that are making the changes to the meta, and time will only tell if the Mega Evolution block will change just a general environment of the meta. Will it creep into the top 5? Will it creep into the top 3? Only time will be able to answer those questions. Right now, the answer is definitely no.
I agree. I think it's too early. With a combination of strong 2 prizers, you don't necessarily need the 3 prizers right now. And if you do play them, you run the risk of getting them one shot with Goldango, Raging Bolt, Celeredge, Garvar. There's too many 2 prizers that are still too strong for them to really identify and make a name for themselves. But as we get more and more Megas involved, we have Phantasm Forces. Obviously, this is the new block we're going to be in. We'll see how this changes, and it's just a matter of time. We're in that weird transition phase where we have 2 blocks right now, and the older stuff is still really strong. So we have to wait for some of that to rotate out, or really just the good players to find more optimal ways. So after this weekend, our thoughts may change once we see what decks make it. But until that point, I say stick with whatever you're comfortable with. Maybe try these out for like your local stuff, but not for a major tournament.
Yeah, I mean, there's 3 or 4 decks that are Mega Evolution focused that I would bring to a cup easy. And you're going to see some of those videos come out the next couple weeks. I think there's a lot of decks that can come from this set that are really good for your locals. Now, if you're trying to go after your Worlds invite, I think it's better to kind of stay with the old guard than the new. But that's the fun that everyone is trying to get their Worlds invite. Some people are just trying to figure out, how can I just win my league? How can I do well at a League Cup? And that's where some of these newer cards can definitely make you take that next step.
Absolutely. We need to support those local league heroes right now because, as I said, not everyone goes to these majors. Honestly, I go maybe only 1 or 2 a year, and that's if I'm fortunate. So, with that, we'll give it some more time. Obviously, it's only been 2 weeks. I've had some forces coming out in another month. I know my local leagues already talking about our pre-releases for it. But yeah, we'll see how Milwaukee and the other major event goes this weekend. I know I'll be watching it whenever I can. Devin knows I'll be texting him like crazy when I do watch it. So, but yeah. But thank you for listening and watching to our episode this week as we share our thoughts and are excited for this new season, this new block of Pokemon for the Pokemon Train Card game. If you made it this far, please like and subscribe. We're always looking for new people to join our community and really just love watching our videos. We love making them for y'all. We're very big in just showing you how we think some of these decks work, and obviously watch our older stuff. We did some series about how to become better deck builders, how to become better trainers. That's something Devin and I are passionate about. But yeah, with all that being said, Devin, any final thoughts before we go into the rest of our week?
No, like I said, I'm excited to see what the regionals get us. I'm interested to see what the future of this Mega Evolution set is going to be and this Mega Evolutionary block. And we'll just kind of look forward to see what the future entails and be able to react and kind of hopefully shape it however we want it to be done.
Exactly. I'm just excited to watch some good Pokemon this weekend with Milwaukee. I know a couple of my friends are going there, so good luck to everyone that is going. And then with all that being said, thank you for listening and watching to this week's episode of the Rogue Deck Chronicles. And as always, have fun playing those sneaky decks.
Bye, guys.